How do you visualize Arthur Fleck's perspective in Joker? You can create empathy for his past.
Your son was found tied to a radiator.
Or empathy for his mental state or surroundings. But what about the space he's in itself? What appears in the frame? According to Arthur,
all of you, the system that knows so much, you decide what's right or wrong.
He feels like the structures of society define and confine him. The hospitals that imprison him. The social worker he's forced to see. The medication he's supposed to take. The ways he's allowed to act.
I like you, Arthur. You know, a lot of the guys, they think you're a freak, but I like you.
At the start of the film, while Arthur is still taking his medication and still living within the confines of society, he is surrounded by structures and buildings. When he is beaten up in an alley and we are shown the title card for the film, the buildings almost fill the frame. Arthur is completely surrounded, something that is echoed again when he loses his job. Even on the bus, he almost looks trapped behind the glass. The buildings envelop Arthur. Sometimes he looks so tiny he doesn't exist.
Until a little while ago, it was like nobody ever saw me. Even I didn't know if I really existed.
In a video with Vanity Fair, director Todd Phillips said,
"This building's back here, that's all put in because I wanted it to feel really oppressive, and Gotham is always over Arthur."
One of my favorite shots is of the stairs. As Arthur walks up them at the beginning of the film, the stairs are dimly lit. Darkness consumes the frame. Arthur walks up the steps defeated, only to be surrounded by even more buildings as he ascends the staircase, as though, even though he's going somewhere, he can't escape the confines of society. Later on, Arthur goes to Arkham State Hospital to ascertain the truth about his mother and parentage. The hospital towers over him in the frame. At this moment, it has the power over Arthur. The way that it dominates the frame demonstrates that power. But buildings aren't the only visual device used to show how Arthur feels trapped by society. In a much less subtle use of framing, we see a number of scenes where we view Arthur through bars. Like when we see Arthur through the bars on the cage that surrounds the apartment mailboxes, or when he's following the neighbor and we see Arthur through a chain-link fence, or when Arthur is at Wayne Manor, where he is trying to talk to Mr. Wayne. In this scene, the bars work in two ways, not only to continue the theme of how Arthur is trapped by society, but also, in this case, trapped by his belief in his past, which is echoed by the scene where he is investigating his mother at the hospital. Arthur feels he is not just held back by society, but the way society forces him to behave. In this world, Arthur is not only abused, but he does not allow himself to retaliate, perhaps because he would be locked up again. But these institutions of law create a world where Arthur is forced to suffer. That is, until he retaliates. As soon as Arthur kills the three men on the subway, the framing around him changes. He is shown running up these stairs from a low angle, the ceiling curved upwards and seemingly far away. As Arthur exits the subway, the space around him expands. He runs through a large tunnel, and much of the frame is open and free. Then the camera frames him from the front at a low angle, so that he fills the space more than the buildings do. And then he runs out of the tunnel into an open area. And while he eventually stops running and hides in a bathroom, he is no longer confined. He is transforming. He is becoming free. The camera is close and intimate as Arthur begins to dance. It almost looks like Tai Chi, Tai Chi is a dance where the internal and external combine, where one searches for a balance between the body and the mind. Not only is Arthur becoming free, he is gaining control of himself and the world around him. For the rest of the film, when we see Arthur confined, he often leaves those spaces and moves into the light. And after he kills his mother, we see the way bars are used shift. Not only are we not looking at Arthur through bars any longer, but we can see the light coming through them. And he dances, filling the frame and the space he's in. Other than the law, his mother was the only thing holding him to a sense of normalcy in society. He no longer has to structure his beliefs about the world and his past through her. He is his own man. This is never more clear than it is in the scene where we revisit the stairs again. Now the darkness of the initial scene on the stairs is gone, and the frame is filled with light. We are shown closer shots of Arthur, and we see less of the structures around him. He kicks through the air, owning the space. The buildings no longer matter. All that matters is Arthur and his freedom. And briefly, we see the visual framing of bars in a scene flipped. Now, instead of Arthur being viewed through bars, it is the arbiters of society and the law that are trapped as they pursue Arthur. Along with the protests, not only is Arthur changing, but so is the world around him.
People are starting to notice.
As he stands before the curtain on The Murray Show, he dances again. He is being reintroduced to the world, like he's escaping a cocoon. He's honest with the world and he's honest with himself.
Well, let me get this straight. You think that killing those guys is funny?
I do. And I'm tired of pretending it's not.
He is no longer Arthur Fleck. He is Joker. The last moment we see Joker through bars is in the police car near the end of the film. This time, though, Joker doesn't stay there. He is only seen there briefly before he is freed by the same anarchy and discord he created. At last, Joker is getting noticed. At last, he is no longer confined by bars or structures. In one of the final shots of the film, as Joker dances, the buildings around him are far away, obstructed by smoke. All we see is Joker and his audience. I remember looking at the trailers for Joker and being unsure of what I was looking at. The brief but brilliant sequences look great, but don't get a chance to breathe. The trailer has its own story to tell in far less time. But the film lingers on those moments where Arthur is enveloped by buildings, where he is seen through bars, and especially those moments where he dances through those previously confined spaces. The framing of Arthur allows us to see his perspective, troubling and claustrophobic as it may be. Joker doesn't want your understanding. It knows it can't get that. It wants your empathy. Joker is essentially a film about the birth of a mentally ill murderer. But how can we relate to something so disturbing? The film traps you inside Arthur's cocoon with visual storytelling so powerful it could work as a silent film. It is a deliberately uncomfortable but beautiful journey. The film holds your eyes on Arthur's perspective and won't allow you to look anywhere else, until all there is